Then
I think
would you agree that
November.
Wow, great accountability. I'm someone who will hold Donald Trump accountable. How do you feel about him trying to get the Attorney General to lie to states for him to flip their electoral votes? Oh, well, towards the end of the stretch, there were certain things that kind of, sort of, I didn't really love, maybe. But, I mean, I could maybe change my mind, but I could maybe have my mind changed. But, I didn't really care for it with the information that I have right now. Like, you're not actually holding him to account. This isn't being accountable.
If you go through the process and you're not happy with the process of what came out in court and you do your appeal or whatever, then is it left up to the defendant to decide whether or not they need to publicly excoriate their judge because they feel like their judge was too tainted? What if Smith would have said, Jack Smith, what if he would have said, I don't think that the Judge Eileen Cannon should be allowed to preside over Trump's case because he appointed her?
Okay, he could say that.
And then if she doesn't recuse, does he go to the media and start attacking her, attacking her family?
Can say that, but that's never been considered a basis for recusal. When you have financial interest, or someone within one degree of you has financial interest, in that case, that is a basis for recusal. That's different from saying this person was appointed.
So there's another case where a person had a daughter who was in a political camp that was different than the defendant, and that judge has recused themselves. There's a direct legal precedent or a direct precedent for a judge recusing themselves in a case.
Whether he legally had to recuse himself, I'm telling you right now, he did not legally have to recuse himself. I'm simply saying, I'm very happy that this thing went the way it did. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you elected Trump.
Well, I didn't, but...
No, you, Destiny, you and all the other leftist political opponents, you and MSNBC and all of you who pushed to persecute Trump, there is no way he would be sitting in the White House come January 20th, if not for the likes of you and me. I feel like it's a joint effort we've been working towards getting him elected.
Donald Trump could have raped a child on camera and people like you would still vote for him.
Yes,
so there's
yes.
absolutely...
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what the process actually looked like. At the end of the day, you're going to support him no matter what.
No, that's not true.
It absolutely is true.
2 years... I can tell you something. 2 years ago, I wasn't even sure I was going to vote for him.
I don't care about any of it. Did you vote for him in 2020?
I did.
And in 2016?
Yes.
You were always voting for him then. You're lying right now.
No. What I'm saying is this. I wouldn't have supported him in the primary. And because I'll tell you something.
It doesn't matter. If you
he ended up
for Donald Trump.
But he ended up. Why did he dominate the primaries without even attending a single debate?
Because conservatives are the ultimate cry bullies, the ultimate victims at all points in time, while also having all of the power at all points in time. It's just how conservatives function. Okay. That's why a conservative will cry about the fact that the case in New York wasn't fair, even though he was convicted by a jury, and they'll say that the case going on in Florida, the federal case, is absolutely fair, even though Eileen Cannon kicked that case down the road for absolutely no reason, and Judge Thomas was giving constitutionally. No.
No, constitutionally, he was not. Jack Smith was not appointed and had no basis in law to actually be prosecuting that case.
I disagree with that, and I have a feeling the Supreme Court's not going to touch that one either. But
the Supreme Court's probably not going to touch my case either. The Supreme Court is not a right entity. They're not a left entity. They're a three-pronged entity.
Okay, and it's not Judge Eileen Cannon's role as a judge to determine whether or not she feels like Jack Smith was constitutionally appointed or not.
Of course, because if he can't bring the case, in that case, it's like you bringing the case.
What do you mean?
If he's not the appropriate person, he's not the representative of the body.
It's not on her to determine if he's the appropriate person or not. That's not her job.
Of course it is.
That wasn't the case before her. That's not what she was asked to decide on.
She has to decide whether or not this case can continue because the person who's coming here, if I walk in there, I say, this is the United States versus Destiny. Do you think that a judge should listen to me? They say, you're nobody, get out of here.
The federal government says she is somebody. She's an appointed special counsel by the Department of Justice.
Doesn't have determination under law as to whether or not he's somebody. In order for it to happen, there's actually legal process that has to go forward, including this recommendation from the president. There has to be confirmation from the Senate. For one reason or another, they chose some guy who never went through that process in any stage in his life.
For one reason or another, because the Department of Justice historically has been able to appoint a special counsel. The Attorney General has had the ability to do that.
So on the one hand, the Attorney General here, Merrick Garland, who's one of the most corrupt individuals we've ever seen in such a high role.
Okay, for the exact opposite reason, because he should have gone after Trump at day one. But go ahead.
Going after him for what? For what on day one?
For the January 6th case, should have been rolling way sooner, and the documents case of Mar-a-Lago. Although to be fair, I don't know.
Incitement? Do you think he committed incitement?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Under Brandenburg? I mean, you've read Brandenburg.
Under Brandenburg. I think it would have worked in the broader context of that J6 case. For just an incitement charge, maybe not. Although I'm not sure.
No, because I think that I think there's a reason that every attorney from the left has never even thought of bringing an incitement case against him because he was clearly within the rights of what he's allowed to say on the Brandenburg.
Possible. I don't think it's clear anything, and I think that the reason not to bring that case is because the Supreme Court's not going to touch it anyway because they're cowards and they'll only touch cases that could be incredibly favorable to Trump, and they won't touch anything under major questions or political questions or whatever other bullshit they want to make up that would hurt Trump. So
they ignored Texas versus Pennsylvania back in 2020.
I don't think they ignored it. They refused to hear it, right? So
that's ignoring it.
To stand.
That's ignoring it. They said,
yeah, well, they allowed it. They allowed Pennsylvania's decision to stand, right? They denied hearing the case, so it's dead, right?
All right. So I think there's so much you and I we're living in completely different planets here.
Sure.
And I want to try and just sort of come to I don't know. This is the whole Venus Mars thing, and I want to sort of try and get both of us into Earth here. All right.
Okay.
So let's slow down. When we talk about the Supreme Court, you think that it's a 6-3 Supreme Court?
Do I think it's a 6-3 Supreme Court?
Yeah.
I like Amy.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think that if the do you think that the Republicans robbed the Democrats of a Supreme Court pick?
Yeah, I think that was good. I think that was good political machination.
Okay, we're probably never going to agree on anything then, but go ahead.
No, I'm saying
I guarantee you that if it was the opposite, that
I'd be furious,
screaming about. You wouldn't just be furious; you'd be saying it was unconstitutional, that it broke the decorum and the rules of government, that it destroyed the.
Is it unconstitutional that the Senate never held a hearing?
No, but you would be talking about
Mayorkas' impeachment.
You would be.
They never. Why didn't we ever get that? He's impeached by the House. Why didn't we ever get the Mayorkas impeachment hearing from the Senate? Because the Senate does whatever the hell the Senate.
Wait, why didn't we get the impeachment for what?
Wasn't Mayorkas, from what I recall, 7 months ago, he was impeached by the House, and still we're waiting for the Senate trial?
I don't even know what that's about.
Yeah, because the Senate does whatever the hell the Senate wants to do. That's what the Senate does. So Mitch McConnell did whatever the hell he wanted to do, and we see that Kamala Harris and Chuck Schumer, they do whatever the hell they want to do. That's the way the Senate has always run.
That's not how it runs. They have plenty of rules. They've got constitutional orders. They've responsibilities. They have ordinary rules.
And they're a body which basically decides how they're a self-governing body for the most part. There's very little they're obligated to do, even with respect to the impeachment itself, right? You remember both impeachment proceedings that they have with Trump, right? For impeachment 1 with Ukraine, with the whole phone call with Zelensky, impeachment 2 with the incitement. The evidence they brought in there, I mean, it was a joke. It was a joke. I was sitting there this is a joke. But then I realized this is the Senate. The Senate is allowed to bring in whatever evidence they want. You know that
every single court that adjudicated on the insurrection thing agreed that it was an insurrection, right? They agreed in the Senate that it was an insurrection. They agreed in the Colorado Supreme Court that it was an insurrection. Then when the Supreme Court turned down...
And the Senate, they agreed it was an insurrection.
Yes. So over 50 members voted that it would have been, and the people that voted not to impeach Trump only did it on procedural grounds because they said that once he was out of office, he could no longer be impeached, but they agreed it was an insurrection.
That's like saying Hillary won the election in 2016 because there's a majority there which voted for Hillary. It's just not reality.
No, if I were to say it is true that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote in 2016, then that would be true. But she didn't win the election because
So when a Senate recognizes that you need to get 2/3 of their body to convict, and some people go along with that and others don't, and they recognize that we're not giving you the 2/3. Is that ultimately saying that this was a conviction of insurrection?
No, I didn't say it was a conviction of insurrection. I just said that the majority of the Senate agreed that it was. I'm just saying that in every court where they've adjudicated on that question, they've all agreed that
So the Senate is not a. So the Senate, first and foremost, is not a court.
I agree.
And secondly, they came to a determination ultimately based on their own yardsticks that he did not commit an insurrection.
That's not true.
If a defendant.
Wait, you recognize what you just said is not true. The only reason why Donald Trump was not convicted in the Senate is because they felt like once he was out of office, it was outside of the scope of their abilities to impeach him. Do you recognize that or didn't recognize that?
That's what they claim. That's what Mitch McConnell says. You believe what Mitch McConnell says? All of a sudden,
okay. Why would it would come down to the question of why would Mitch McConnell ever lie about that? What would be the point of lying, saying oh yeah, I would have found the leader of my party guilty of insurrection if it wasn't for that procedure? Why? He has no incentive to say that at all, ever. So why would we not believe him on that when he's actively working against his interests? Unless you're just saying he's a pathological liar, which probably not.
Is there anything else Mitch McConnell ever said in his life that you believed? That this is a thing he said that you believed?
I don't think Mitch McConnell generally lies. What do you mean?
I think Cocaine Mitch, I think that he will say whatever is most politically expedient in the moment.
But that wasn't politically expedient. Saying that the leader of my party is an insurrectionist, however, I'm not going to vote that way because of procedural grounds in the Senate. Why? That's not politically expedient at all.
At least that's before he lost his marbles, which frankly probably happened. So
probably happened on January 6th when he was on the floor urging Trump to call off his lunatics that were outside trying to break into
whatever feds were, the 27 feds who were there.
You mean the people who were federal informants at one point in time, right?
Okay. All right.
You know that report totally destroyed your entire conspiracy on your side about there being federal agents on the ground, right? Do you acknowledge there were 0 federal agents on the ground?
I don't know. That's what the feds are saying right now. But
wait. So you acknowledge that report? You acknowledge there's 0 evidence there were any federal agents on the ground whatsoever?
My president.
Wait. Do you acknowledge there was zero? There's
President
0 evidence.
Biden told me that I can't trust his DOJ. I can't.
But that's good because you don't trust President Biden. So you acknowledge that there's been no report, no evidence. There's 0 federal agents on the ground, right?
Why would you not answer that?
Are we trying to get somewhere? Or are you just trying to?
You just brought.
So the place that he's getting to by saying that is. This is like it's a conversation litmus test thing again. If you're not willing to answer this objectively true state, like if he's saying there is no evidence of FBI agents being on the ground on January 6th, that is objectively true. There's no evidence of that. That is objectively true. No reasonable mind can disagree with that because it's not a matter of disagreeing or agreeing. That's just what did happen. Like what is happening. There is no evidence. So for you to keep weaseling around answering that question, it shows dishonesty on your point. Destiny was completely willing to engage with your boring fucking First Amendment gag order conversation, but as soon as you're pressed for one single answer, you won't give it.
Up out of nowhere.
Are we trying to score points?
You just tried to score points by saying 27 agents on the ground or whatever. They weren't. They were federal informants, which could be anybody.
Yeah, true. You brought it up.
27. I don't think I said 27. I don't think I used 27 agents, but if I did, I misspoke. You're right. 27 informants.
Okay.
But that's a difference without a very discernible distinction.
You don't think there's a difference between a confidential informant and an agent?
Can you?
As far as the impact that they're having.
Acknowledge there was 0. There's 0 evidence.
Biden told me that I can't trust.
Can you come up?
Acknowledge there was 0. Or totally destroyed your entire conspiracy on your side about there being.
I love when companies need to stop doing this thing where they introduce a new fucking feature that doesn't work at all, and they make it an integral part of the fucking website. If your feature doesn't work, I don't care that it's a cool feature if it sucks ass. I don't want to use it. Don't implement it into the fucking website if it doesn't work yet.
Agents on the ground, right? Do you acknowledge there were 0 federal agents on the ground?
I don't know. That's what the feds are saying right now. But my trust
report. No, you just brought up out of nowhere.
Are we trying to score points?
You just tried to score points by saying 27 agents on the ground or whatever. They weren't. They were federal informants, which could be anybody, right?
I didn't say 27. I don't think I said 27. I don't think I used 27 agents, but if I did, I misspoke. You're right. 27 informants.
Okay.
But that's a difference without a very discernible distinction.
You don't think there's a difference between a confidential informant and an agent?
As far as the impact that they're having?
Yes.
On what basis? Are you
if I were to get caught with weed right now, if I walk outside and I got caught with weed and the FBI officer catches me and he's like, listen, I need you to tell me blah, blah, blah. And I inform and I tell her whatever. And then a year later, I'm at a protest. Do you think that I'm the same person at that protest as an undercover FBI agent? Because I would be considered an informant at that point, right?
Right. So you want to basically say, since they had formerly worked, you're assuming that they have no ties to them whatsoever anymore.
I didn't say you're assuming they don't have ties.
Why? Ties to the FBI doesn't tell you anything. Saying, oh, they have... Notice how he walked back, by the way. He said 27 FBI agents on the ground. And now it's walked back to, oh, you think these people have 0 ties to the FBI at all? Well, good thing that wasn't your claim. Your claim was that there was 26 FBI agents on the ground, and now you just walk back to people who have potentially loose ties to the FBI still, who are just like informants. That doesn't prove your point at all. That doesn't prove any point.
My understanding is that report said,
and we don't know, and we're not going to know because this is the least transparent, most obfuscating DOJ and FBI.
Also, we know that I think 2 of them were told to go. I think 5 of them told the FBI that they were going, but didn't give any details. And the rest of them that were there did so without the knowledge of the FBI. And I'm pretty sure that the FBI informed every single person that they were aware of that was going, that the FBI cannot, like, it is explicitly, despite the fact they're an informant, it is explicitly disallowed for you to encourage law breaking or breaking the law. Like, we do. It sucks because Destiny doesn't know this, but we do know generally the relationship between these informants and the FBI, and it was nothing. It was basically nothing.
Imaginable.
That's not even remotely true.
You should be excited for Kash Patel to be coming in. You should be excited that Kash Patel is going to come here and he's going to expose everything. It's going to big, beautiful spotlight that's going to come down, a ray of sunshine that's going to enlighten all of us.
This is unbelievable.
You should be so excited.
It's unbelievable to me.
Join
Why did you pay so much lip service to the thing that is the grossest to me, that I hate that I've read anything about anything now at this point, is how much people are so willing to throw our entire system, the entire Constitution, every part of what makes this country work under the bus for political points. How could you support a guy, Kash Patel? You're talking about how important it is to believe in the Constitution of freedom of speech. This guy literally has a book calling Donald Trump the king, and this guy has a list of political enemies that he wants to go under. Kash Patel, who's going to be our FBI director, and he's got people that he says he wants to go after legally. Before, I thought you guys were so mad about Alvin Bragg and so mad about Letitia James or whatever, that these people are calling investigations before they even get into office, but you're excited for Kash Patel to come in? That's insane to me.
I need to ask you a question on this.
Yeah.
What does omni-liberal mean? Because this is the least liberal position that you take that I can possibly imagine. Okay. I'm sitting here. You're, just to be clear, you're non-responsive to every single thing I just said, and now we can make random vague appeals to the Bill of Rights or whatever other bullshit we always do. We have nothing to say. I'm not being non-responsive at all. I want to be very responsive.
He is being
taking the populist position, and you were taking the establishment position.
You're taking an authoritarian position, and I'm taking a constitutional position. Yes, just to be clear, you're an authoritarian. Yes.
How, in what way am I being an authoritarian?
Because you're
saying I don't trust the government.
What do you mean? Of course you trust the government. You just said that you're celebrating Kash Patel coming in.
I'm hopeful.
When you say government,
I'm hopeful.
Just to be clear, so people
what do we have today?
When you say government, you mean the left. You don't trust the left. When Donald Trump was in there, you trust. Name one thing that Donald Trump did or said that you didn't trust.
I didn't trust a lot of his decisions in COVID.
Okay, so the COVID stuff is the one thing. So you didn't like the vaccine. Anything non-COVID related?
I don't know. I mean, it's been 5 years since it's been 4 years since he's been in there.
He was president for 4 years. He didn't do a single thing that you disagree with. Say a single thing you disagree with. You can't think of it.
Some of the things he said, I thought it was very awkward the way he phrased some of the stuff. I didn't like the phrasing it on some of the things. Look,
can you give any positions of his that you disagree with?
Most of his positions, I think he spent too much money. I think the 2 critiques that I think are valid of Trump, the most 2 valid critiques of Trump, and this is the interesting time that we're coming to right now, which is, amongst MAGA, which I definitely identify as being MAGA. In MAGA, there is a split, which most of your audience probably is unaware of, which is that split is, do we trust Trump blindly or do we not, or do we question policy?
To be clear, that split doesn't exist.
You're wrong.
Everybody trusts Trump.
Quite the contrary. Then you haven't been reading my tweets, and I understand I'm not the same size that your channel is, but I'm saying...
The problem is that this is fake. So people do claim that they don't blindly trust Donald Trump or whatever, but they're all lying. They all absolutely do. They say oh, I don't blindly trust anybody. The government's the government, I don't trust Donald Trump. He can be really bad sometimes. But then all of the things that they criticize him on are super, hyper charitable to Donald Trump and actually have no significant weight to them. So you're not actually being non-biased and not trusting Trump, quote unquote, by saying, oh yeah, I thought he did a little too much government spending. A lot of it was good, but I think he did some government spending which I didn't like sometimes, but I mean, maybe my mind could be changed. Come on, you're not being this big Trump critic. You're not speaking truth to power. You're just not sucking him off for 3 hours instead of 2.5 hours.
right now. I've been critical. I think that when he's saying I don't want to have a debt ceiling, I was like, this guy spent more money than anyone. He's the one person who really needs a debt ceiling. And I disagree with him on that. With respect to some of his appointments, I think that there's all sorts of issues, and I had issues with Mike Johnson. I don't think Mike Johnson is someone who's. I think that he's an establishmentarian. I think he's the perfect guy for you. If you're pro-establishment, I think that, and I can recognize that there's shrewdness in saying that. Look, it would have been way too big a hassle to try and find a different replacement who would gain enough support amongst the GOP in order to become Speaker of the House. But I think that as far as politically, the stances of Mike Johnson are so anti-populist, so anti-MAGA, that I think that he's distasteful. I think.
How did you feel about the tax cuts?
I mean, the tax cuts. I know the left loves saying they were tax cuts for the rich.
I'm not asking about if they're tax. I'm just saying because this is the thing. We'll say like, oh, well, I don't like his rampant spending. Did you support the tax bill? Of course I did. That was amazing. So it doesn't mean anything. It's meaningless. It's a meaningless criticism. I don't like the spending. It's just like a vague random.
You're going back to 2017, and what I'd say is at that point he was trying to jack up a stagnant economy, which had been stagnant since 2008.
That's not true at all.
100% true.
Also, where is if that's the case, where is the charitability for Joe Biden? If you're saying like, oh, Donald Trump had to deficit spend to make the Obama economy, which was apparently bad, somehow good, but also fuck Joe Biden. What? Really? Okay. Oh, also, I just realized I'm like way. Hold on. Yeah.
Clear. That's by no metric and no measure is that even remotely true. What are you talking about? By what measure?
Do we have a growth year of 3% under Obama?
A growth year of 3%? I don't know for an entire year, but I know that from 2013 onwards, the economy.
A good month here and there.
You think just a good month?
I'm saying what I'm saying is we were growing at a rate of, I think I'm talking top of my head and trying to think back now 12 years. So my recollection is that it was basically like it was somewhere between 1% and 2% a year at best.
Sure, rebounding from a catastrophe.
Which rebounding should be better. Rebounding, that's the thing. Here's the thing. What happened? All the growth that we saw from Biden after COVID. After COVID, it's like all of a sudden this surge in employment, surge in economy, surge in everything coming back. Why? Because everything had been shut down, and now there's growth back. So you would think that it should have been rebounding even stronger under Obama, and yet it didn't. No one was happy. You keep thinking that everyone was like that. Everything was like really glory days. The reason Trump was elected the first time and the second time was purely because the left created this person they claim is a monster. You all created him.
Okay, so then for Donald Trump, you keep saying this like it's such a stupid point. You understand that you guys like created Obama and you guys created Biden by the same logic too, right?
No. How was Obama created?
Oh my God.
How was Obama created? How was Obama created by the right?
I mean, things like the Middle Eastern wars probably didn't help from Bush, right? Things like No Child Left Behind, things like the war on drugs.
No Child Left Behind is what created Obama.
Why did you just pick out one thing of three different things I just said?
I don't know.
I'm saying that I'm saying that all of these things. I don't think a lot of people were very happy with Bush's presidency. I think that our
Bush
opinions.
Was terrible.
I think that our opinions.
Bush was terrible.
Okay,
he was terrible.
What are we disagreeing on?
We're not disagreeing on that. Bush was a disaster. Awful. I hate Bush. You're never going to get.
So what is it? So
you're never going to hear.
I know now because you guys all have to. It's part of the new marching orders. You have to hate every old. It is. I understand. I'm just saying that. How then could you not say if everybody hated Bush? How did that not create Obama? What are you buying? Are you saying that like the Democrats literally created Trump? That like Obama in a test tube like bred Trump out of a lab? Or
are we having a real conversation here?
I can't tell. I'm not sure.
No, we're not because
Obama
can't on anything.
Changed the culture of this country in ways that we are still reeling from, and I pray one day we find a way out of. But I don't know how that's going to happen. And the way they changed the nature of this country is that Obama introduced a concept that if you disagree with me, it's because of who you are and the fact that you are genuinely an evil person. Prior to Obama, the perspective of most people in political discourse was...
What? Okay. This is so stupid. What, like... When did Obama do any of that? I was under the impression that Obama was more or less like pretty whatever. Like, as opposed to, like, the person that this guy is openly supporting, calling, like, the left a swarm of locusts or whatever. Like, how can you say that... Also, maybe the argument is that Obama, by calling people racist when they say something racist, caused the right to lean towards a racist. Like, if that's your argument, then LOL based. But, like, yeah, I don't even know what point you're making here. It's like, that doesn't seem to map onto anything.
You love America. I love America. We have different visions as to what is healthy for America.
I think that statement alone could qualify you for, like, antipsychotic medication.
Yeah.
You have never listened to any political commentary in your life if you think that prior to Obama, people like Rush Limbaugh, people weren't demonizing the Clintons, weren't talking about how evil the socialists, the commies were, the Democrats were. This was mainstream Republican political discourse across every single talk radio station, across all of Fox News. The idea that Obama might be one of the most delusional things I've ever heard in my entire life. Go ahead.
You cut me off rather than actually hearing my point.
Okay.
My point is not as far as like talking about the political leaders. I'm saying talking about their supporters. I'm saying talking about there being tens of millions of racists in this country. That is a new position for a political leader to take that Obama introduced. And he did it in a very insidious way. He would never say they're racist. He would say, well, some folks aren't comfortable with people who are coming across the border or whose skin is a little darker than theirs.
You don't think politicians are making accusations of racism during, like, the civil rights era, or...
So now we're going back to, the 60s? You're saying that's okay because...
Well, you said the first time in U.S. history... There was...
in my recollection.
Okay, gotcha.
The first time in my recollection, we didn't hear the demonization. We didn't see the demonization. You never heard once Trump demonize tens of millions of people who vote against.
What? Okay, this dude is psychotic. You've never heard Trump demonize a large group of people that never voted for him? The dude who said, like, a swarm of locusts, the dude who, like, made fun of Paul Pelosi getting attacked with a hammer, like... I'm sorry?
Against him, the way we heard Biden echo when he gave that red hatred speech about how ultra MAGA is the biggest threat facing our country.
Wow.
You understand that when Biden made that speech, that Biden literally said he wasn't talking about even a majority.
No, don't even fight on what Biden said. Fight on the fact that he just said that Donald Trump never alienated large groups of people. Like, he's literally talking about the enemy from within in the fucking lead up to the election. What are you talking about?
Of
I understand that.
Number one, and you understand that Donald Trump has a disparaging. You know that Donald Trump is literally the guy, and I'm sure that you giggle along every time who gives like
the
political nicknames to his opponents, right?
Donald Trump's entire. Those are individuals.
Yeah, and you don't think that they represent the people?
Yeah, he'll
that
make a joke about Rosie O'Donnell, make a joke about Nancy Pelosi, he'll make a joke about Chuck Schumer, but that's not making it.
And he'll make comments about immigrants coming into the country, about wanting to ban Muslims coming into the country, about how he'll make comments about Venezuelans taking over apartments and Haitians eating cats and dogs.
So you think that when he said the Mexicans, they're rapists, you think he was saying that all Mexicans are rapists? Is that how you interpret it?
Well, so...
Are you arguing
the Mexicans are racist?
I did English in high school, but when you say some of them are good people, the implication is most of them are bad people. Yes, correct.
Yes,
that's why you're having a huge split. A big argument right now, at least online for MAGA, is whether or not Indians smell too gross to come into this country and should have H-1B visas, or whether we should keep them out.
I don't think you even believe what you're saying.
Okay.
Because the whole they're rapist things, he says they're sending their worst. He's saying they're crooks, they're criminals, they're rapists. And he pauses, they're rapists. And everyone's like, oh, wow. He's saying they are rapists instead of they're rapists.
Do you think Biden was talking about all MAGA Republicans?
No,
all MAGA?
They call them ultra MAGA. I don't know what the hell ultra MAGA is.
What do you think he meant?
I definitely felt he meant me.
Okay.
I felt he meant me, that I am a
That's
threat.
Great. We're not talking about you. Do you think he meant most of MAGA?
I think he meant every person who listens to me.
Do you think he meant most of MAGA?
I think he meant most people who. Do
you think he meant most of MAGA?
I think he meant people who distrust the government.
Okay. Do you see how convenient it is that we have to actually invent new language to describe what Trump actually meant? But for Biden, we have to ignore what he actually said and then like invent like whole new meaning. There.
You mean like peacefully and patriotically that you invented that was a way of saying attack and that's the insurrection?
Hold on. That was an hour-long speech.
That was
he called to fight like 10 times in this speech. Why would I take the one time where he says, I know you'll be marching down to the Capitol, where they all happen to march down to the Capitol and then engage in a riot? Was that a coincidence?
And you can find every political leader on the left and the right saying, fight, 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 fight. You can find video montages of them saying, fight and fight. He said, we're going to fight for our rights. That's not saying go in there and blow up a building or kill people.
Give me one other time where they have called for a massive amount of people to go to an area knowing that there was going to be no, not peacefully and patriotically.
He said peacefully and patriotically.
Oh, so what? All of them misheard the message?
No, what I'm saying is
no. How did a riot happen if that's what he said? Did they all of them too stupid to understand English and they just happened to engage in a riot? Explain how that happened.
First and foremost,
you're not going to explain it. You're just going to keep dancing around it.
No, I think some of them got violent and that they shouldn't have gotten violent. Does that mean that he's telling them to get violent?
So it was a coincidence.
No, it's not a coincidence.
So what happened? So he sent them down there, and the people that he riled up and sent down there, they got violent? Why?
What does that even mean? I don't understand the words.
What? Yeah, now the English language fails you to describe the most obvious thing in the world.
What is when he says go down peacefully and patriotically?
He didn't say go down peacefully and patriotically. You're inventing words. He said, I know you'll be going down there soon and peacefully and patriotically making your voices heard.
So what part did I make up then?
He didn't say go peacefully and patriotically. He didn't say that. He never ordered anybody to be peaceful.
He said so, and you talk about how he said fight 10 times, and he said one of those times is he said, he said
you got to fight like hell or you're going to lose your country.
Yeah, you got to fight like hell or you're going to lose your country, which is the exact same language that we've heard from Hillary Rodham Clinton. We've heard that from Schumer. We've heard that from Obama. We've heard that from every
so then can I find
leader.
First of all, okay, I already don't take this guy seriously at all because he legitimately said that Donald Trump has never engaged in the type of rhetoric that alienates a group of people that he didn't vote for him. So already, this dude is like completely full of shit. I don't know if he's like bad faith or if he's just like mind poisoned or whatever, but like already, I don't take this guy seriously. When we talk about the fight like hell or else you're going to lose your country, first of all, I reject that Hillary Clinton or Obama or Joe Biden engaged in that rhetoric when it wasn't appropriate, because saying like, oh, we have to fight because Donald Trump is a threat to our country, it's not the same, because Donald Trump is a legitimate threat to our country, and the threat that Donald Trump was talking about to our country was like mail-in voter fraud that has never been proven by anybody that is responsible with investigating it. So that's one. And second of all, when we talk about we have to fight like hell or else we're going to lose our country, like that kind of rhetoric from the Democrats, it's never in response to a direct protest. You're not telling a group of protesters that you know are going to be marching to disrupt the certification of the election. We've never seen Democrats use that kind of rhetoric to an already fired up crowd who already have plans of going to protest the election results. Nothing like that has ever happened.
There are people marching down to a federal building to stop an election?
Why is it that when he says fight like hell, because of this context, all of a sudden he's starting insurrection?
Because of this context.
For the first time in U.S. history, we had to delay the certification of our vote because he was trying to overturn the outcome of the election. And there's no other example of that happening.
When he's trying to ensure, I'll tell you right now, the reason MAGA is there is because he called them there because he lied to them for over a year that the election was false. For over a year.
Yeah,
the election happened 2 months earlier.
Yeah, and 12 months before that, he was saying mail-in ballots are going to be rigged.
Oh, that was the same thing that Jerry Nadler had said and that Chuck Schumer had said, and everyone had said that mail-in ballots were the most distrustable
the difference
things
is that
in
when
the world.
Democrats made that contention, they were doing it to state bodies that then ensured the integrity of their machines. One of the big criticisms prior to this that gets cited a lot is Democrats saying, we're not sure if we trust the way that these machines work, so all of them were disconnected from the internet for the elections. They weren't able to be accessed online. They were saying things. There was not a single thing that Donald Trump ever said to make mail-in ballots more secure.
What do you mean? What does that
Just
mean?
what I said. What part of what I just said did you not understand? Donald Trump didn't say a single way to improve the mail-in ballot system. He said we need to ban all of it.
What words could any human have said that would have made that mail-in ballots more secure?
I don't know. We could change the authentication process on how we...
Was there an authentication process? Because it seemed like there wasn't.
Notice how you just pivoted because you were so fucking wrong with what you just said?
No.
Donald Trump didn't spend a single ounce of effort. You know why he did that? Because he knew the Democrats would take it more seriously to all the COVID restrictions and to mail-in.
Really?
Why are you looking at me like you don't understand? He said multiple times show up and vote on that day. Go down on that day and vote. We know the Dems are going to use mail-in ballots, and we know all the mail-in ballots are going to be rigged. And in every single case where they tried to present evidence, most of it bullshit, that it was rigged, it all failed.
Really?
Yes, really.
Most of the cases that every case that they brought in that showed BS, first of all, that's not true. As more and more time is going on, we're actually finding more evidence.
That is absolutely not true.
That is 100%.
Second statement to qualify you for antipsychotics. You're delusional. That is not true.
Really?
We have never found evidence of widespread voter fraud or anything enough to be outcome determinative.
You just changed outcome determinative. All of a sudden, we're just introducing, widespread, outcome determinative.
We always do this. I don't understand why. Why would we be talking about anything else? Why would, like, when we're talking about, Donald Trump never never did anything to prove his claims of fraud, and then you say, well, there was proof of fraud because, like, this certain old lady dropped off 2 ballots. Then you're like, okay, but, like, there's no widespread fraud. And you're like, here comes the pivoting, wall shift, LOL, Mott and Bailey. Just because there's not evidence of outcome determinative fraud. Like, obviously that's the contention. Like, stop.
Because that's the only voter fraud that matters. Not my grandma might have written her name wrong, or some guy voted in favor of his dad who didn't know he got the ballot.
What about the authentication process, which all of a sudden authentication processes traditionally had always knocked out roughly 7% of all ballots, and in 2020 knocked out less than 1%. How is that possible? Tell me how that's logically possible.
Sure,
There was no authentication process. There was none.
Why that might be the case?
Because they decided we're not going to have an authentication process.
Oh, then how were 1% rejected?
I said less than 1%.
How were any rejected? There was no process. Because what you just said was ridiculous. That's right. What you just said was ridiculous.
It's not.
It was ridiculous.
Why? You think every ballot place did the exact same thing?
No, I didn't say every ballot place did the exact same thing.
Less than 1% means that a handful of places were doing it, but by and large,
so some were. What are you even saying?
I'm saying that 6.5%. I'm saying roughly 6% of things that should have been knocked out were never knocked out. That would have been knocked out in any other election.
That's not how numbers or stats work, right?
But the thing is, regardless, the Trump campaign had their opportunity to litigate this in court. They had every opportunity to bring up that these certain people should have been purged from the voter rolls. Every time they did, nothing came out of it because they either had people bring the suits that didn't have standing because they knew that they wouldn't have anything, or the cases where they actually did try to bring the evidence, they were ruled against.
Right?
What?
Traditionally, mail-in ballots were used for some exceptional circumstances.
Yes.
You either can't get to a polling place, you request a ballot,
yes.
You're military overseas, or right? On a case where you have the mail-in ballot rate maybe going up 100 times,
yes.
Why would you expect the error rate to stay the exact same when your cohort is changing dramatically?
I would expect it to go up dramatically because these are people doing.
You don't understand.
Logic.
Don't understand.
Logic.
No.
Just use logic.
It's not. No. You're not using logic. You don't understand stats or numbers. You're not using logic.
Well, relax for a second. Think for a second. The people who vote every time in mail-in ballots, they're more accustomed to the process. They're less likely to make an error in the process. When you have millions and millions of first-time persons using it, does it not make sense that there would be a higher error rate rather than a lower error rate?
No.
Okay. I
don't even know if
we also had unprecedented amount of knowledge on how to vote by mail in 2020. Like the amount of people that were explaining exactly how to vote by mail, and no one else had anything better to do, so they might as well figure it out. Like the people act like they can extrapolate like things into 2020 that you can't do just because like you can't count on somebody being like stupid or ill-informed in 2020 because all they were doing was sitting at home and watching TV and watching all of the information that was given to them about how to vote by mail. Like the problem wasn't just that, or not the problem. The thing with voting wasn't just that they were sending out ballots and more people just happened to vote by mail. It was that there was an active effort to get people to vote by mail so they wouldn't have to go into the polling places and get COVID. So I mean, it's not like the only thing that changed is that more people used mail-in ballots. The way that mail-in ballots were used and the knowledge surrounding them also changed. So I'm not saying that like the stat that he brought up shouldn't be investigated, but one, I'm pretty sure that it already has. Like the 2020 election is absolutely the most litigated election in American history. And then two, it's not necessary, like this isn't a smoking gun.
people who use mail-in ballots use them all the time.
Okay.
I don't do the military, but my understanding is, isn't the average military contract like 5 years? Isn't that like an average military contract? In that case, they probably only do one mail-in ballot. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Assuming that military, there's only former people actually doing.
My guess is it's probably the large. Somebody can Google it. That'd be my guess. Is that that's probably the largest cohort of people that do the mail-in ballots. Probably military people.
Okay.
Do you acknowledge that Donald Trump was trying to direct his DOJ to lie to states about investigations? Do you think that's?
I wasn't there. What do you reference?
When Donald Trump was telling his Department of Justice that I need you guys to send letters out to 7 different states saying that we found a lot of evidence of voter fraud. So
I think
this is something that I bring this up. I bring the DOJ letter up a lot as well, but this is something that Destiny brings up a lot. But he always says that the letters were asked to be sent out to 7 different states. I was under the impression that the only one was Georgia, and that's why I bring up Georgia in my debates. I don't know. Is there any evidence that they were trying to do this in the 7 other states as well?
I think he got frantic down the stretch there. I think a lot of things
frantic.
I think a lot of things he did there are things he should not have done.
So then, would you agree that they
wow, great accountability. I'm someone who will hold Donald Trump accountable. How do you feel about him trying to get the Attorney General to lie to states for him to flip their electoral votes? Oh, well, towards the end of the stretch, there were certain things that kind of, sort of, I didn't really love, maybe. But, I mean, I could maybe change my mind, but I could maybe have my mind changed. But, I didn't really care for it with the information that I have right now. Like, you're not actually holding him to account. This isn't being accountable.
Authoritarian in nature?
I wouldn't call that authoritarian. No. I wouldn't call it authoritarian.
Okay, so when the
it's authoritarian if there's punishment if you fail to abide by it. What punishment came to anyone who failed to abide by something that he had?
Authoritarianism is only when punishment.
Well, if I tell you right now, go outside and go to your bank and give me $1,000, and you say go F yourself, in that case, that no one would say I'm being authoritarian.
What if you tell me if I don't do it, you're going to fire me and then find someone else who will?
Okay, fine. And what came first? I don't know how we know that actually happened.
Wait, because there's testimony from 20 different people.
Oh, is this what we're going with the J6 hearing? Is that where
I'm not going with the J6 hearing? I'm going from testimony from Steve Engel. I'm going from testimony from Rosen, from testimony from Donahue, from testimony from Hirschman, from testimony from Giuliani, Sidney Powell. What do you mean?
I don't know.
Which people do you want to talk about?
I don't know which state.
Oh, you don't trust any of those people.
I didn't say that. You just threw words in my mouth. You literally just took a sentence and threw. What I said is I literally don't know about that because I never was looking at that. You're throwing at me this data point, which you're basically saying these are things he said.
What do you think it means that you don't?
Yeah, why would you not? The fact that and this guy knows who Destiny is, so this is a big thing about what Destiny talks about. The fact that you're so confidently saying that Donald Trump isn't an authoritarian, you call yourself MAGA, and you say that Biden is authoritarian, but then you don't know about the power grabs or anything. You don't know about any of the plot to overturn. Isn't that convenient? Isn't that a little strange?
No, you don't.
What I'm saying is, I was not following that.
I guarantee you, he knows everything about all of the fucking ways that the details and the contour of Hunter Biden's cock. I guarantee you, he could fucking do a perfect finger painting recreation of Hunter Biden's cock, but he doesn't know anything about the actual attempt on our democracy. It's.
The president of the United States you had all these things to say to Merrick Garland, but you don't care that the president of the United States is trying to order his DOJ to lie to states for the outcome of an election?
I wasn't there for that. When did this come out?
2020.
It was part of the whole J6 committee.
It came out in 2022, I think.
That's what it is. See, yeah, I didn't follow the J6 committee.
Okay, because you don't give a about the integrity of the government of the election. So when you say Merrick Garland is corrupt, your words are hollow and meaningless. They don't mean anything.
What I'm saying is, no, I didn't follow anything on the J6 committee because that started. It was
because it was attacking Daddy Trump.
It was
He's your cult leader.
Committee.
And you feel bad and weird when they're attacking Daddy cult leader.
You think this is being clever when I already established early on here that there's a lot of things he says and does that I disagree with, including
that's great. And I've debated Hassan and other people that use this weird tactic.
He doesn't hold any of the convictions. He has no convictions behind this disagreement. You can say that you disagree with Donald Trump till the cows come home. You're still a Trump supporter. You are the same as every other fucking person that doesn't make that caveat because you advocate for the exact same things. You make the same exact points. You are no different than all of the people who don't make this weird caveat for nothing just to escape accountability. You saying, but I disagree with that. You still voted for him, dumb fuck.
I didn't agree with it. I'm not asking if you agree with it, if you like it. I don't know why you're even giving me that opinion. I'm asking you how you feel about it in terms of authoritarianism or legality.
This is the jump that you did. This is you're not following you're basically trying to jump from one thing to another, desperately trying to like make score points, and I'm actually trying to have a conversation with you.
Okay, here, let me be very clear about
not trying to have a
No, you're saying I'm jumping. I'm not just because I'm bringing up something you don't have an answer to doesn't mean I'm jumping. You're just falling behind. So
I'm not falling behind. You're changing the landscape as to what it is that we're talking about. I start talking to you about an issue with respect to that, and I admit to you that I don't think he did everything properly and with respect to between November and
yes, we call that equivocation.
That's not equivocation.
It's equivocating.
You call that authoritarian.
When I say he's doing something authoritarian that is breaking the law, probably should be correct, and you say he did some things that were kind of called equivocation.
No, I'm not equivocating. I'm saying the issues that you're bringing up, I don't even know anything about them. Why do I know about them? Because I didn't watch January 6th. Then you use that as a basis to try and attack me and saying I didn't watch January 6th instead of asking me why didn't you watch J6? And you come to what you have to do to try to win a point is you want to try and say, oh, you didn't watch January 6th because it was attacking.
The reason he's doing that is because this guy's already shown that he's a dishonest person. Like, he's not an honest actor, and this is the same thing with most of the right now, which is really frustrating. But this is the state of the current right. It's to completely obfuscate and dance around every answer to every question. Like this guy hasn't given a straight answer to anything. So why would Destiny ask you a clarifying question about where you stand on the J6 committee if you haven't given a straight answer on anything else? Why would he do that? He has no incentive to do that.
Daddy Trump. You see, you're trying to characterize and label me and put me in a box.
I am jumping. You're right, because I understand you're going to say I didn't watch J6 because that committee was put together in an illegal manner because Pelosi didn't include people from the Republican Party in a proper way to put together a committee. I know all the dumb talking points.
You're again.
Tell me what I'm wrong about. Tell me. Okay, then tell me why it was illegal. Go ahead. Okay, tell me where you're going to go.
I'm going to go. What I'm saying is there's no cross-examination. There's no evidence coming forward. There's no opportunity by the other side to examine any of the evidence that's being presented, which is what you would have in any standard type of normal proceeding, which is going to be antagonistic to a particular individual.
It's not. It's not a court case. There is no cross-examination.
Yeah, I don't know that it's true that you need cross-examination of. I don't know if it's true that you need cross-examination from people in a house select committee to investigate events surrounding something. I don't think you need to do cross-examination. Also, Nancy Pelosi only rejected 2 of the Republicans, and I'm pretty sure the Republicans pulled everybody else because they thought that it was going to be a biased committee. But that's on the Republicans if they didn't want to offer anybody else up, because whoever was putting them up put up like 2 people that were directly implicated in the case. So obviously they're not going to come out and say that they're guilty. And then at the end of the day saying that, oh, well, there were no Republicans to cross-examine the people giving testimony to the J6 committee. By the way, the people giving testimony to the J6 committee were Donald Trump White House aides. Jeffrey Rosen was Donald Trump's chosen attorney general. You don't need, I mean, like, cross-examination would be nice, but realistically, we have the, like, why does it feel like we can't make any claims about something that is so, like, clearly obvious because it hasn't been litigated in a fucking court of law? Like, we have the letter that they were trying to get to be sent to the Georgia state legislature. Donald Trump hasn't come out and disagreed with any of the facts on this situation because he doesn't want to give it, like, spotlight. We have the testimony from the attorney general and from the deputy attorney general and notes from the deputy attorney general making direct quotes from his call with Donald Trump. We have the meeting, like all of the members of the meeting where they were talking about firing Rosen for inactivity. We like to say that any sort of cross-examination would get rid of the testimony of 4 separate people all testifying to the same thing in which we have documents proving. Cross-examination does fuck all at that point, especially when all of the people testifying to this are Republicans. Jeffrey Rosen is a Republican. Richard Donahue is a Republican. Eric Hirschman is a Republican. So to say, like, oh, well, there were no Republicans overseeing it, the whole fucking thing was testimony from Republicans.
Oh, okay. So in that case, you're saying it's proven that you're saying but you're using their conclusions as if they prove a point for you. So don't tell.
Also, he's not using their conclusions, or at the very least, he doesn't need to be using their conclusions, because the nice thing about the J6 committee that a lot of people seem to forget is that all of the fucking depositions are listed right under the committee. You can read the whole unaltered transcription of the deposition and the testimony from Rosen and Donahue. You can read the entire thing word for word, and it's damning, because I mean, this is testimony under threat of perjury from a Republican that Donald Trump appointed to be the Attorney General, saying that Donald Trump did all this shit, and for some reason this dude is denying what Donald Trump doesn't even deny.
Tell me
Excuse me, hold on. Just because something is not proven beyond a reasonable doubt in a criminal court
at all.
I understand.
At all.
Nobody.
No, there's zero proof. That's what I mean. It's zero proof.
So it's either in
Also, I don't know why he's saying there's zero proof. He's not even familiar with what we're talking about. How could you know if there's proof? You don't know. Also, no proof for any of the Burisma shit. I don't know this guy, but I can almost guarantee that he makes a lot of strong claims about that. But yeah, but there is proof. And you don't even know if there's proof or not, because you admitted that you were completely unfamiliar with the thing that we're talking about before you started talking about it.
criminal court or nothing.
No, it's not criminal court or nothing. What I'm saying is there's at least a chance for the other side to examine the claims that are being presented as to whether there's any
and you know what their examination sounded like? It sounded like this. 2 words. It was I plead the fifth, and the second was, I need absolute criminal immunity for everything I did as president. That was their examination of the other side. You can lean your head down all you want, okay?
That's true, because they also, it's not like we didn't do interviews with, I'm pretty sure they reached out to Roger Stone. I'm pretty sure they reached out to, what's his name? Steve Bannon, I'm pretty sure they reached out to. I'm pretty sure they reached out to most of the co-defendants in the Jack Smith indictment as a part of the January 6th committee. So let's not pretend like we weren't interviewing people from Donald Trump's side. It's just that they wouldn't give any testimony because they all pled the fifth because they did it.
Because you jumped.
Also, to act like cross-examination from Jim Jordan about the actions of Jim Jordan would be valuable to the J6 committee. I'm sorry. I like, that's not going to be helpful. That's not going to do anything, because at every step of the J6 committee, Republicans just showed that they're not actually interested in coming to a truthful outcome, a truthful result of this investigation. They just wanted to obstruct it at every single step, and that's exactly what Donald Trump did for the Russia investigation, by the way.
Again, now you're trying to find some sort of way of legitimizing the J6 thing, even though, do you disagree with me that there should be a right to examine the evidence?
There was. Pelosi gave an opportunity for 5 conservative members to join that committee, and they said no.
5 that she would choose.
No, that's not true.
She didn't let Jim Jordan on there.
She denied 2 of the 5 picks.
Why?
3 would have been because they were directly implicated by that investigation.
Yep. Oh, were they?
Yes, they were.
How could she know that before there's a committee to actually conduct the investigation?
Because you guys are so shameless. You did it all out in the open and in public, because people like Jim Jordan are literally publicly trying to circumvent our...
why would, like, Jim Jordan's obviously super clearly involved. He's been involved. Also, I'm pretty sure the J6 committee wasn't the first investigation into J6, first of all. Second of all, everything was done out in the open, and they were all fucking holding a fuck ton of conferences to talk about how it was being done. I'm pretty sure they eliminated Jim Jordan and the other person based off of the meeting. Like, there was a very public meeting among Trump supporters about the plan, and Jim Jordan was a part of that meeting. So, I mean, that it makes sense to not include him because he is part of the thing that they would be investigating. And then on top of that, regardless, good logic doesn't know anything about this. He's talking about how he didn't follow the J6 committee because he's like posturing towards some corruption, but he doesn't know anything about it. He genuinely thought that Pelosi made the condition that she gets to choose every Republican. That's just not true. He has no idea.
Our electoral process. It's not hard to figure it out.
Jim Jordan was publicly circumventing the process.
Yes, when they were saying things like, we will join you in Congress to resist the certification of the vote, and we will join you in trying to make sure that this election isn't certified by Pence via the ECA or whatever. Yes.
You mean like what happened in 2016, right?
Really? Yeah. I'm sorry. Who objected?
Regardless, if we had, if you wanted to do a House committee to investigate the Democrats obstructing the 2016 election, I know you won't fucking do it because there's nothing to go off of, but if you want to make a House committee to investigate the Democrats clogging up the 2016 election, then I wouldn't expect you to put people on the fucking on the panel to investigate it that tried to object to the election results. I wouldn't expect you to do that.
Objected. Who objected? Nobody did. Nobody did. They talked about it, but you have to pair your objections with one person in the Senate and one person in the House, and there was no formal objection process, which never happened. So that comparison was bullshit. Thank you.
Why is that? Why is that?
Well,
why
it
is
also
that
just
BS?
skirts
Because
off,
there was no paired senator or representative.
It completely skirts off of the point. You're describing why Jim Jordan was disqualified from holding a seat in the J6 committee. But if we had a House Select Committee to investigate the 2016 election, we probably wouldn't have somebody sitting on that committee that tried to object to the 2016 electors. We probably wouldn't do that. That's fully and wholly consistent. The problem is that Republicans don't actually believe that there was anything wrong with 2016. So they're not doing a House committee to investigate Democrats obstructing the 2016 election, because every time they bring that up to sidestep whatever, all of the illegal activity that they did in 2020, they don't mean it. It's complete bullshit.
To actually put forth a formal objection to the certification of that vote. It didn't happen.
Okay. So, and your point as far as that there wasn't an effort for them to try and step in the way of it?
Also,
or
there wasn't an effort.
This is when he accuses of Destiny of just trying to get points. That's exactly what he's doing here. This isn't related at all. Democrats in 2016 have nothing to do with the J6 committee. So for him to accuse Destiny of just trying to get points and then bring up Democrats objecting to electors in 2016, which didn't even happen, by the way, how could you accuse of anybody else of just trying to get debate points? This is a really funny still frame of Destiny, by the way. Him and his natural environment.
Coordinated by the sitting president to circumvent the outcome of the election, like there was with this one.
When you're saying an effort to circumvent, I'm sorry, I missed this word.
As in to break procedure with the Electoral Count Act, or to get enough people to object to certification that they could delay it indefinitely.
He definitely was trying to.
So that they could delay it indefinitely, kick it down the road, and remain president for another 4 years.
What he was looking for is he was looking to get that electoral count under 270 so that they could turn over to kind of a constitutional convention, turn over to the states, and have each of the states vote based one vote per state. That was the plan.
Which would have been stealing. That was one of the plans. That would have been stealing the election.
By the way.
That's your position. I think that it's an interesting legal position.
It's not an interesting legal position
that we will never ever know the answer to, and
we never would have known it anyway.
We never will, because there was a new law that went into effect, because apparently the Democrats were afraid that Mike Pence actually had the authority.
That's strange, because Mike Pence didn't feel that way, and neither did Trump or anybody else. Nobody felt like he had the authority to do that.
Really? Apparently Eastman thought he had the.
When people bring up the Electoral Count Act, the Electoral Count Reform Act of 2022, I think it was. They don't realize that A, it didn't just clarify the vice president's role. It also changed the objection process so it couldn't be as easily gamed. So that's one of the other things. And then B, what Congress thinks is necessary to clarify doesn't mean that it was vague in the first place. I'm trying to think of an analogy. I don't even it's so stupid. Like there's the Electoral Count Act was not something that they were trying to game. It's something they were trying to break. I need to stop saying that they were trying to game the Electoral Count Act. They weren't trying to game it. They were trying to break it, because there's nothing that says that there's nothing in the Electoral Count Act that says the vice president has the unilateral ability to choose electors. There's nothing that could even be interpreted like that, because they weren't trying to interpret it differently. They were trying to break the Electoral Count Act. So the Electoral Count Act specifically went out and clarified the state of the vice president, because the original one didn't have to, because it's not there to tell the vice president what he can and can't do. It's there to tell what Congress is supposed to do. But for them to say, oh, I know the Electoral Count Act says Congress should do this, but we want the vice president to do it anyway. The Electoral Count Act, which has no bearing on the vice president, I'm pretty sure, other than verifying the Congress's either successful or unsuccessful objections. The point that I'm trying to make is that the vice president plays almost no part in the Electoral Count Act anyway. So the Congress passing a clarification bill clarifying the role of the vice president doesn't mean that the vice president originally had that power and they took it away from him in this Reform Act, because in the original Electoral Count Act, the vice president plays almost no role. Like, they don't talk about the vice president's ability to unilaterally object to electors, because why would you? That's not something that the president is understood to do. And on top of that, it doesn't matter what the Electoral Count Act potentially said or didn't say, because Eastman wasn't wasn't trying to work within the Electoral Count Act. He was trying to get Mike Pence to break it. So it doesn't matter if it even did explicitly say that Mike Pence, the current vice president or the president of the Senate, doesn't have this authority, because Eastman was trying to break it anyway.
The authority.
No, he didn't. That's why he said. That's why when somebody references the Constitution when they're talking about a law, what they're telling you is they want to break the law because they think it's unconstitutional. Which is what I don't know where these confusing looks come from.
Because when you say, I don't even understand that phrase. Because if I say you have a First Amendment right to spout idiocy, that doesn't mean that I'm referencing the Constitution, and I'm not saying that you can break the law. That's why I don't understand.
If you're referencing,
Destiny explained this poorly. There's a law. If you're saying that we can diverge from this law because of the Constitution, that means that you're trying to break that law. Or if you're saying, like, oh, this law says this, but the Constitution says this, that means you're trying to break that law on the grounds of the Constitution. And that's exactly what Eastman did, is in saying this is where we break from the procedure laid out in the act or whatever.
a law and saying, I think that this law is unconstitutional because you've got a constitutional right to do this, you're breaking the law. The wording in the documents in both memos was this is where we're going to break ways from the ECA, which was the law that dictated how the election...
ECA doesn't dictate law. This is a mistake.
ECA was a law. The ECA was a law.
ECA establishes policy. That's not law. There's a very there's a very significant distinction between policy and law. And I think this is where you're getting a little bit confused, respectfully, because it doesn't make sense to just sort of read in here. I'll ask you right now, if in fact Mike Pence did not have the authority to do that, why would the Congress...
This is not a real argument.
Why would Congress...
Wait, no, clarify
Congress
that.
can
What is
pass
the
law...
difference between policy and law here? What does that mean? What does this distinction mean? Is he saying that the Electoral Count Act doesn't govern the way that we certify the votes? Because I'm pretty sure he's just wrong. Are you saying that, like, it's just suggested procedure? Like, what are you trying to say?
Laws for any number of reasons.
You can't make a distinction and then not explain it.
This is not a real argument.
You knew what my argument was.
I already know what your argument was. Yes, so it's the same defunct argument because the counter that I have is so much stronger. You're saying, why did they pass a law to clarify language for something that might have been hazy or whatever? Then my question would be, if the language was so hazy, then why did Eastman and everybody else feel like they had to break ways with the ECA?
Because it had never happened before.
No, because they wanted to break the law. They wanted to part ways. Well, hold on, I'm sorry. Your argument is even self-defeating. You said that they changed the language of the ECA. Why would that matter? It's just a policy.
It wasn't the ECA. No, they codified. There was a law they tried passing. They actually did pass.
They made to the Electoral Count Act.
They passed a law after
amending
the
This dude, the Electoral Count Act was a law that was passed. If it wasn't a law that was passed, our election certification wouldn't work the same way since like 1960 because it was passed in regard to another fucking set of elector bullshit. Because they just like sent like alternate electors for like 7 sets of electors in some election. Like, that's why the Electoral Count Act was passed, to give a set procedure by which the electors are sent. That's why the ECA exists. So to say that it's just policy, it never got passed until 2022, if this guy actually making the case that the Electoral Count Act was not in effect until 2022? If that is the case, then why would Eastman say he needs to break it?
The Electoral Count Act, which is the same thing that Eastman wanted to break ways with, but I thought that was just a policy, so why would they even need to change it?
Well, it's actually an interesting question.
It's not an interesting question. It was obvious what was going on. They were trying to break the law to entrench Trump as president for another 4 years against the actual vote.
I apologize.
You're good.
I apologize for that. You having fun?
No.
Good answer.
If anybody on the Democratic side tried to do this, you would be out in arms.
I would express to them the law the same I'm expressing to you now.
No, you're not. It's such an unbelievably hyper-partisan take. It's insane to me.
It's not even remotely hyper-partisan. I'll tell you right now. I came in here telling you about Good Logic versus Mershon, which is a lawsuit I brought in my own name, trying to stand up for the rights of the criminally accused to come out there and speak without being silenced by an oppressive government.
You
came out there saying that government's never oppressive, which I
never said that in my entire life.
I'd love to see if under a Trump administration you're not going to worry about the Trump government being oppressive. You know, for the last 4 years you've been enjoying the Biden administration.
He's not saying that the government can never be oppressive. It's just that there are some instances in which a gag order is required, like, I don't know, the defendant, you know, name dropping the judge's family for his insane MAGA caravan to like fucking run them off the road. Maybe that's a situation in which a gag order is probably appropriate. That's all that was said.
You think it hasn't been oppressive. And I'll tell you right now, if you weren't sitting in that camp, it's been very, very oppressive. It has been. People have been canceled. Judge Terry Dowdy referred to it as the worst abuse of First Amendment rights in American history.
In what regard?
People have been... The Biden administration has been so oppressive. You don't understand. People have been canceled. The Biden administration... Who did the Biden administration cancel? Please.
With respect to when he examined the Twitter files in the case that was brought by Missouri versus...
Hold on, excuse me. The Twitter files, who did that happen under?
That
was the Trump administration. How the fuck is Biden getting blamed for that? He wasn't even in office.
This brings us because it continued through 2021. It happened in 2021. It related specifically to speech.
It's unbelievable.
It related to, what are you talking about?
How you
the
guys,
Twitter files.
That's what I'm talking about. When you
the Twitter files.
And also,
the Twitter files.
Control of everything
the Twitter
at the same
files
time.
were silencing people about COVID treatments. The Twitter files.
A lot of this happened in Trump's administration.
And yet Terry Dowdy referred to it as the Biden administration is the worst abuse of First Amendment rights. They
does he control the flow of time? Is this Dr. Strange?
It's not Dr. Strange. It's that they...
This dude's wrong then. If he's saying this was the most oppressive action taken by the Biden administration when it was only done in like the first couple of months of the Biden administration and the rest was done under Trump, then that dude's fucking lying. Like, why are you saying like, yeah, but I mean, he said it, so I'm just going to believe it anyway. Like, oh, wow, very, very independent thinker of you.
Say that the Biden administration...
COVID lockdown and the majority of the...
Jen Psaki is the one who came out there and said, we're working with Facebook to make sure that we're going to keep people silenced and then we're going to shut people up if they basically implying anything contrary to what our establishment message is. That's Jen Psaki. You want to somehow say, well, this is under Trump. This is the Twitter files under Trump. It's Jen Psaki talking about how they're coordinating with Facebook.
Who's Jen Psaki?
Jen Psaki was the press secretary for Biden.
When was the most oppressive, restrictive stuff done on YouTube and Facebook?
I don't.
It was during COVID under Trump.
Yeah. What did I just say?
I don't care what Republicans or whatever are saying now post hoc or whatever to make anything.
That's not post hoc.
Do you acknowledge
I'm telling you a finding from the court that this is the worst abuse of First Amendment rights in American history.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. Give me more clarification on what you're talking about.
Missouri v. Biden. It was a case that was brought in. It was brought down in New Orleans. They were saying that, and they were looking to get a stay and stop the CDC and Biden. And at the time, I think it was KJP was at that time the press secretary. Stop them from interceding and shutting down various right-wing figures.
The press secretary interceded in a court case and shut the court case down in a state court case? Was it federal case? Help me understand. Go ahead.
In Missouri v. Biden, Attorney General Andrew Bailey headed up based on findings from the Twitter files, he headed up a case against Biden and the U.S. government and CISA and various agencies. And there was like 50 different individuals, and including KJP and Biden, and to try and stop them from coordinating with various social media platforms to shut down right-wing conservative people who were expressing opinions that the government did not like.
Okay.
They looked to get a stay. In order to get a stay, you have to show the judge that you have a likelihood of success on the merits. So the judge has to, at this stage, a cursory review of what evidence you have to show that you're likely to
stay. I think also requires you to show that there's going to be some irreparable harm suffered if you don't get the stay.
Correct.
Well, right?
Yeah. That's correct. Yes. So, but one of them is that you have a likelihood of success
on the merits. Yeah.
And Judge Terry Dowdy, who heard that case, said that he viewed this as likely the worst abuse of First Amendment rights in American history.
And he made that comment based on a pretrial appeal, a motion for a stay?
Which has a lot more evidence given contrary to his deposition. In other words, the defendants had...
Just to be clear, I'm so sorry. So the J6 committee, which had hundreds or thousands of individuals involved...
Missouri v. Biden. Okay. Oh, it appealed to the Supreme Court. Oh. Okay, so the Supreme Court ruled against them. The court lifted injunctions set by the lower courts allowing the federal government to continue to contact social media companies without restrictions while the case continued. The Supreme Court issued its decision on June 26, 2024. The 6-3 majority determined that neither the states nor the respondents had standing under Article 3, reversing a Fifth Circuit decision. To establish standing, the plaintiffs must demonstrate a substantial risk that in the future they will suffer an injury that is traceable to the government, defendant, and redressable to the injunction that they seek. Because no plaintiff had carried that burden, none of them have standing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Which involved hundreds or thousands
Seems
of hours
like
of testimony given
The Supreme
under
Court, the Supreme
under,
Court, which
oath.
is like very notably very pro Donald Trump, ruled 6-3 that there was no harm faced.
All of that doesn't
evidence.
matter. But a pretrial motion, I'm so sorry, real quick.
So yeah, why is he going off of the pretrial motion when this conversation took place? The Supreme Court had already ruled that there was nothing. It ruled in favor of Biden. So I don't know why he's referencing a pretrial preliminary evidence hearing from the judge when we have the Supreme Court ruling for Biden.
What is the standard of evidence for a pretrial motion? I don't know. I'm an idiot.
The standard is likely success on the merits. What do you mean?
No. What is the standard of evidence for me to put in like a complaint? If I'm filing a lawsuit against somebody, what's the standard of evidence for that complaint?
The standard.
There's none. Zero.
No, there's no standard.
So why would I care what a judge would say based on, you're saying on the merits?
No,
there's no evidentiary hearings. There's no, what do we?
Stephen, just because you understand a little about the state doesn't mean that you understand what you just said.
Okay, then explain to me because I'm not understanding. Okay, go ahead. Because it sounds to me like you're saying that a guy filed a lawsuit, and the judge looked at the complaint itself and he was like, well, should I allow the stay or not? Well, sure, even though none of this has been evaluated or, what did you say, cross-examined by the other side?
Yes, correct. Cross-examination. This is subjected to cross-examination. cross-examination, because the others, that's the difference. That's why this has a lot more credibility. Because when you bring a complaint, if I bring a complaint against you, I can write whatever the hell I want to write. There's no proof. I could be making up everything I'm writing there. If I want to get the court to act and do something, and I want to get a stay, I need to establish 3 prongs, one of which is I need to convince the court that I'm likely to succeed in the merits. I show them my evidence, and I show you my evidence. You have an opportunity to see what I am showing the judge. You have an opportunity to refute it.
So what was
to
the outcome
counter
of this
it.
court case?
The outcome of this application was Judge Terry Doughty wrote a 118-page stay order.
What was the result of the case?
And what he said was that this is the worst abuse
of
First Amendment rights in American history that was being
for?
conducted by the Biden administration. The stay was to stop them from interceding and from communicating with Facebook and various social media platforms to tell them, hey, because what they found in the Twitter files is there's a hotline that they would have. They would call up and they'd say, Joe 817-006 is spreading, need to silence this post that he said or shut down his account.
So the Twitter files didn't find that at any place.
This is I'm telling you right now. This is what
this is so dishonest. What was the result of that case?
I read the Twitter files, so yeah, they didn't say any case.
I read the Twitter files.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that there was far too much interaction between the government and these social media platforms, which Jen Psaki proudly touted that we're working together with Facebook, which is something that should terrify you if you actually think about it for a moment.
No, if you think about it for more than 2 seconds, it makes sense why this type of coordination would take place.
Why? Why?
Because intelligence agencies might have access to some information that.
Yeah, so if there's some sort of avalanche that's coming, if there's some sort of tidal wave, typhoon, I want them to be able to express themselves through Facebook and have Facebook send out notices. I 100% agree with you on that. It makes sense.
If there are foreign actors that are trying to compromise social media platforms, and an intelligence agency has access to that information, so you don't think they should make that information available to any of the social media platforms?
When you say foreign actors who are doing what? Well, I couldn't hear you.
Who are trying to, I don't know, impersonate American citizens on social media accounts?
Impersonate American citizens? No.
I don't.
If they were trying to commit a crime, like let's say you said.
Wait, so if our intelligence agencies know that there's 1 million Chinese foreign people,
that's not their business.
What do you mean that's not their business?
That's not what they should be doing.
Okay.
I
don't want to go down here because I'm going to tell myself I have this argument.
No.
Okay,
that's what the government should be doing.
What was the outcome of that court case?
The outcome was that he issued a 100-page stay. It ended up being overturned later on.
Okay.
It was overturned, but not on the basis of lack of not refuting his finding of fact, but as far as which parties it could be enacted against.
So who was this?
In other words, at its highest level,
case was this a state case or was this a federal case?
It was a federal case.
Okay. And then it was overturned.
It went to the circuit court, I think, as I recall, and I'm thinking off the top of my head because I'm going back a year.
Okay.
And a lot's happened in the last year. But as I recall,
I
don't remember if it might have even
to the Supreme Court,
and they ultimately the ultimate termination with respect to this. The case is still going on, but with respect to the state itself, I think that there was an issue as to which parties.
Okay, because earlier when you said that there were like 50 named people, I know that you guys like to just like throw a million random things in every lawsuit because like apparently the more the merrier. So that's not surprising.
That's what lawyers do. That's what lawyers are always going to. You shoot.
Respectfully, I disagree. Seeing as a lot of these people are not being.
All right, let me. Is it still going? I don't think it is still going. June 26th, 2024. It seems like it's not still going, and they struck it down because no one was able to establish significant harm.
Disbarred for their behavior. I think that they engaged in exceptionally bad. But you're just going to say it's all political in nature.
No, that's another way of chilling speech.
Yes.
It's not. Oh, it's not chilling speech. So if I
no, actually, I think any lawyer should be able to file and allege anything in any lawsuit ever, regardless of it. I think that's a really good use of the system, and it's definitely not wasting anybody's time or misleading the public in any way. I think it's a really good use of our freedom of speech.
You really trust our system so much.
It's not about trusting our system. It's about people like you who want to abuse and use the system under the guise of free speech when you're just looking for cover to lie and mislead people. It's insane.
Seeing you talk about how much you trust the system under President Trump. I'm looking
probably significantly less, given that he's legitimately trying to undermine the system, because Donald Trump is doing all the things that you're accusing Biden of doing. I already told you one thing is trying to give direction.
Well, yeah. Well, look at the fucking appointment of Kash Patel. The fact that you get mad about who's the one DA who was running on investigating Donald Trump. Like the fact that conservatives fucking lost their shit about that so hard, but then not a peep out of them about when when Donald Trump appoints Kash Patel, who literally has like a hit list of Democrats he wants to criminally prosecute as director of the FBI. It's all projection. Everything that a Republican says a Democrat does, they are doing. Oh, they make a claim that Biden is directing the DOJ, but Donald Trump actually did that in 2020, and they're saying that Democrats are just running to take Donald Trump down, but then Kash Patel gets nominated to head the FBI, and you're saying that Donald Trump was or that Biden was like putting huge pressure on social media companies to take down anti-Republican posts, when in reality it was just anti-COVID misinformation. And then we find out that Donald Trump did actually make real requests for some celebrity calling him a pussy-ass bitch to be banned. It's all projection. It is all projection.
To the DOJ in order to lie to states about election outcomes. That's insane to me.
You think that's 2020? Let's look ahead to 2024.
People like Kash Patel.
You say, oh, what did Donald Trump do like that? And he was like, oh, what about him trying to direct the attorney general to lie to state legislatures for him? And he was like, yeah, well, that was like 4 years ago. Let's move on to like things that he actually hasn't done. What has he done what has he done in the future that is going to be like this? This is like vile. Like a point in the past from his previous administration that can't be refuted. So he's like, oh no, like what has he done next year?
I think are frightening to me because he's coming into office with a list of enemies and he wants to investigate political opponents.
I think that wasn't what happened with Trump. You think he wasn't being investigated by Alvin Bragg? You think Fannie Willis, some DA in Georgia coming after him?
Sorry, are we talking about the federal government and Biden, or are we talking about New York State?
I'm asking you. Think that the whole Jack Smith
me earlier of jumping and jumping and jumping.
Okay. You think that wasn't happening with Jack Smith saying we're gonna prosecute Trump for taking documents, but we're not going to prosecute Biden for that? We went through the whole document. I don't want to have the whole Biden.
Because you're completely totally wrong about it. Yeah, I understand. That's good.
It's nice to be able to synopsize with just like, this is my position on it and you suck, and you do it very effectively, but I don't think it
we can read all the stuff. The difference between the Biden case was somebody finding a document in a garage and notifying I don't know if it's the documents department, it's not FARA, fuck me, the housing for all the documents. I don't know if it was
Presidential Records Act.
Sure, no, there's a name for a department that has all this shit. But it was them notifying the federal officials versus Donald Trump obstructing over and over and over again to maintain control of his documents for as long as possible, and being on record saying multiple times,
I need to read that.
I should have declassified these things, but I didn't. And you won't believe who had this battle plan for fucking Iran.
Yeah, I agree with you. We wasted enough time on that.
Okay,
we wasted enough time.
Gotcha.
Because I think that's kind of whatever. I mean, that's such an evidentiary thing. It's ridiculous. It's evidentiary as to like.
Well, don't worry. At least now we don't ever have to get to the evidentiary part because it's all been anyway. So
because Jack Smith never got confirmed.
No, because Donald Trump is in office now, and you apparently can't prosecute a sitting president, and it would never happen under Trump anyway. He's shown us that.
But I was asking you a different question. I was asking you jumped back to 2020.
Different question.
The question I was asking you is, what are your concerns about Trump going into a second term?
Well, what are your concerns about Trump going into a second term? Why would you not point to what he did in his first term? That's not a pivot.
In terms of like my freedom of speech, or just of the government in general, or what?
Are there specific concerns that you think that certain people are going to be punished, or certain people are going to be subjected to all sorts of unconscionable type of activities?
I think the biggest concern, I think that when Donald Trump
came in... Don't let him walk you off of the Jeffrey Rosen Donahue shit is the perfect answer to that, because we already have documented evidence of Donald Trump trying to pressure the DOJ and the Attorney General to lie to state legislatures for them to flip their electoral votes, even though there was no evidence. Like, this is a perfect example. Why are you letting him walk you off of this? Like, 2020, it was under his last administration. He doesn't deny that he did it. It was under his last administration. Like, how could you prove like a state of mind of what Donald Trump's going to do in this next term more than what he did in his last term?
And for his first term, I don't think he had any idea how the government worked or what anything was. And so when he wanted to do things
That's
like
probably true.
Prosecute or persecute,
if he does it, if it's against someone you don't like, it's persecute. If it's against someone you like, then it's prosecute. And I think we have that on both sides. Do we need to? Are we having like a time?
I did a thing. I don't know what that means. No. But hold on. First of all, wait. You just described your position, not mine. My worry is that when somebody like Donald Trump comes in, and now he knows he needs a sycophantic attorney general because even Barr wasn't willing to go as far as Trump was. He knows that he needs Barr is terrible. That's hilarious. He knows that he needs somebody more sycophantic in the DOJ. He knows he needs somebody more sycophantic in the FBI. That Donald Trump might realize he literally can just say, "Hey, let's investigate these guys. Hey, let's go after these guys." They already did it with Hunter Biden, which all turned out. Even the foundation for that.
Who went after Hunter Biden?
What do you? Trump?
Biden's DOJ did.
Yes, but under when did that start?
Oh, okay. See, this is you play into the exact same thing you criticize the right of doing.
What do you? No, when was the start of the Hunter Biden stuff?
I don't know. It wasn't early enough because they all of a sudden had a statute of limitations issue.
It was when Giuliani and Trump were calling Zelensky, asking for them to announce investigations publicly. It was under Donald Trump. Hold on, just to be clear, because you're trying to make it sound
DOJ. No, you are doing it. You are. The DOJ started nothing.
Number two,
there was no case filed against Hunter under the Trump administration.
Just because they didn't have a way to start a case, because it was all bullshit. That's why he got impeached the first time. Yes, and also the Twitter files and everything was investigating behavior that started under Donald Trump. Yes, this going into the next administration is not the same question that we're asking in terms of like where things started.
Who prosecuted Hunter Biden?
Those cases eventually ended up under Biden's DOJ.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't Trump that prosecuted Hunter.
It was all of that investigatory stuff started under Trump.
Yeah. Did his DOJ go after him?
That they were investigating.
But did they file charges against him?
No, because they weren't able to find anything because it was all bullshit.
So who found it? Biden's DOJ found it?
Biden's DOJ did eventually find it, yes.
But then why are you saying it's BS if Biden's DOJ
I'm saying that the beginning of that investigation all started on BS. And unfortunately, Biden isn't willing to play the same way the Republicans are. When Republicans are being investigated, you know why that didn't happen? That's when Donald Trump says, "Oh, Comey, I'm firing him." Biden allows his DOJ to investigate him. I don't know if he should do the same thing. I think he should act like Republicans and just fire everybody that's involved in any bad stuff against him. Because you're very happy that investigation happened. You're very happy that the Durham report. You're very happy that we got the Durham report under Biden.
Do I ever do that to you? Have I done that to you once? You sit here saying what I'm happy about, and you make assumptions.
It's because this guy is a liar, and he lies about his positions because he's a liar, and it's because Republicans can't defend a single thing that they ever advocate for, so they have to lie about what they actually believe. And Destiny, for all that I disagree with him on, is very honest. He's never going to walk away from biting a bullet. This dude has almost exclusively done that by saying that he doesn't think that directing the DOJ to lie to state legislatures to get their results flipped was authoritarian. Like, okay, dog, you're dishonest. That's why he keeps having to map what he believes you to believe onto you, because you won't come out and say what you actually believe.
About what my position is without even bothering. Why bring me in here? You could just put a cardboard cutout here of me and just say, this is what Joe thinks about things, and I'm going to share with you, and I'm going to tell you how stupid that is, as opposed to actually asking me how I feel about it. I didn't care about Hunter Biden. I think Hunter Biden is a stupid waste of time. I think Joe Biden is corrupt as hell, but I didn't care at all about Hunter Biden. But you sit here assuming that I'm very happy about it. I'm simply pointing out that the actual investigation of Hunter Biden happened under Biden's DOJ, not under Trump's DOJ. You're sitting here saying he's going to be so persecutive, and yet for one reason or another, he never persecuted Hunter Biden. That happened. And the only reason that
did. Yes, he did. He opened the investigation with no evidence. That is persecution.
Happened.
What do you think this argument is proving? My issue wasn't who's investigated by which DOJ. My issue is what are the means by which these investigations are starting? What is the purpose by which these investigations are starting?
Why does that matter? How many investigations are starting?
Why does it matter how an investigation is started?
What I'm saying
if it starts because a political opponent is making a phone call to another country, and then another person comes in to inform the FBI who's lying about it, and that guy who lied about it is now admitted to the FBI that he told every single lie about Hunter Biden and Burisma, and now, however, a decade later, we still don't have any information about Hunter Biden and Burisma. That's a big issue, I think. I would say that's a big issue.
We have no information. Now we're going into the
that there's anything improper that happened between Hunter and Burisma? Correct.
You think that was all above board?
What are the charges again?
You think it was all above board?
What are the charges again?
You think it was all above board?
What are the charges again?
You think it was all above? Yeah, exactly. You see, this. You need to let your.
But he knows it's. Whatever. I'm not.
Your personal.
Why does he know every single fucking thing about Burisma, but he didn't even bother to learn one of the key parts of Donald Trump's efforts to try and overturn the election? He literally said he didn't know anything about it, and he wiped off the committee to investigate it based off of things that he knew nothing about. But for some reasons, he knows fucking the exact architecture of the fucking building that Burisma operated out of.
The other side sitting there actually respond to a question that you're asking. You're asking, what were the charges again?
I don't remember if Burisma was the area or the name of the company, so forgive me.
Let me ask you this. Why would the charges not relate to foreign influence peddling? Why would they not?
Because there was none.
How do you, but I'm saying, how do you know that there was no foreign influence peddling?
Well, okay, technically, I can't say there was none. What I would say is they investigated and they found none. Would be the technical.
So you think what happened with respect to why do you think that a shrewd, corrupt, oligarchical Ukrainian company stupidly just gave millions of dollars to Hunter? Is that what you think? Are we out of time?
We're running out of time. We're out of time.
We're having too much time. Too much fun.
Too much fun.
Too much. Listen, I'd love to have this conversation with you again. Sort of dial down. Like actually, like, because I'll tell you this. One thing I think if you think about it, you'll recognize is that
was stupid. Stupid.